Have you ever looked at an empty plastic bottle and thought, that's just trash? What if I told you it could become a floating lettuce raft, or a rainbow garden tree, or even a chandelier of living flowers? Welcome back to Garden Ideas, where we turn the forgotten into something truly unforgettable. In this video, you'll discover 23 magical ways to upcycle plastic bottles into beautiful, functional, and space-saving garden creations. All practical, all possible, and many you can build with just what's already around you. Whether you have a tiny balcony or a backyard in bloom, these ideas are made to fit your space, your rhythm, and your style. From vertical herb walls to whimsical trellises, we've curated stories you can see, feel, and make your own. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss our next transformations, where simplicity meets creativity and the garden always welcomes you home. Let's begin, slowly, warmly, and with the soft belief that even a bottle can bloom again. In the quiet corner of a small backyard, a spiral rises, not made of stone or cement, but from bottles once forgotten. Tucked neck down into the earth, they curve in gently, one beside the next, forming a garden bed that winds like a slow breath. It's not large, maybe 3 feet across, but it holds so much more than soil. It holds intention. At the outer edge, moisture-loving herbs like cilantro and parsley thrive where the morning dew lingers. The bottles here keep the roots cool, shaded by neighboring greens. Further inward, as the spiral climbs and the sun finds more to curve, thyme and rosemary soak in the warmth. Their scent is stronger here, rising with every brush of wind or hand. Building it took no blueprint, just quiet patience. First, a spiral drawn in the dirt with a stick. Then, rows of bottles, pressed firmly into the soil. Layer by layer, compost and potting soil were added, each level a little higher, forming the slope. The spiral shape isn't just poetic, it's purposeful. It creates microclimates, a design borrowed from nature and offered back to it. By midday, the garden hums softly with bees. You stoop low, running your fingers over soft basil, watching how water trickles from top to bottom. No plastic feels wasted here. Instead, it gleams in the light, scuffed, weathered, real. This spiral asks for very little. A few hands, a handful of bottles, a space no bigger than table. But what it gives back, color, flavor, quiet joy, is far more than expected. This is what happens when you look at trash and see the shape of something new. Sometimes the best kind of care is quiet and unseen. In this humble corner of a garden, plastic bottles, clear and curved, become patient caretakers of green life. A reservoir below, a cradle of soil above, and between them a soft cotton thread. This is a self-watering planter, born not from invention, but from attention. Each planter begins with a single bottle cut in two. The top half, flipped and filled with soil, sits neatly inside the bottom, now filled with water. A wick bridges a gap, drawn through the neck like a whisper connection. It doesn't rush. It doesn't spill. It simply gives. Slowly, faithfully, drop by drop, the plants respond to this rhythm with quiet gratitude. Lettuce grows broad and tender. Basil waves slightly when the wind passes. There's no overwatering here, no forgetting. The planter waits patiently, giving only what's needed. You check the reservoir once a week, maybe less. You refill it with cool water, smile, and walk away. For apartments, balconies, and tiny backyards, this design feels like a friend. It doesn't ask for much. A bottle, some string, and a seedling. And yet it teaches so much. About stillness, about balance, about how even recycled things can become part of a living system that feels whole. There's beauty in how simple it is. No motors, no pumps, just gravity, cloth, and trust. And when the first green leaf curls over the edge and catches the light, you realize you built not just a planter, but a practice. Something in your home now grows even when you're away. And that's a kind of magic. Along the edge of a modest garden bed, something quiet and colorful begins to tell a story. Bottle by bottle, pressed gently into the soil, a border forms, not with bricks or wood, but with repurposed plastic and glass, hand-touched with paint and memory. These bottles, once carriers of soda or sauces, now rise like roots in reverse. Their necks disappear into the earth, leaving the painted or transparent bases to catch the light. Some shine amber, some sea green. Others wear coats of color lovingly brushed on by patient hands. There's something deeply human about the imperfection. Brushstrokes visible, chipped corners, tiny fingerprints that say, "Someone made this." This border does more than divide space. It holds mulch in place, Dieter's trampling feet, and most of all, frames the garden in a way that feels intentional. There's joy in how the bottles catch early light and cast soft glimmers across the bed. On rainy days, they shimmer like glass beads, and in dry seasons, they mark the path with quiet clarity. Building it takes no expert skill, just a shallow trench in the rhythm of setting each bottle side by side. You press them in gently, adjust the tilt, and step back to admire how they curve with the shape of your garden. It's a slow process, but a satisfying one. And with each bottle, you remember where it came from and what it's become. This is a kind of decor that grows with you, one that changes with the seasons, ages with the garden, and always holds its place, not just as a boundary, but as a quiet celebration of what once was waste, now turned into welcome. In a world where plants are expected to reach upward, these tomatoes do the opposite, growing confidently downward, suspended from bottles that once held soda or water. There's a gentle defiance in the way they dangle, their stems curling earthward as if gravity itself were part of the design. The method is simple, yet unexpectedly elegant. Each bottle is cut open at the base to become the planter's top. Soil is added carefully, and a small seedling is threaded to the bottle's neck, held gently in place by mesh or fabric. With time and water, roots stretch upward into the soil, while stems trail downward, bearing fruit in midair. Hung beneath pergolas, balconies, or old ladders repurposed as overhead frames, these planters save space while catching the eye. There are no cages to support them, no weeds at their base. Rainwater trickles through easily, and the fruits stay clean, never touching soil, never bruised by the ground. The first time you see one up close, it feels almost whimsical, but there's nothing silly about its purpose. This design is practical for tight corners, balconies, and city yards where space is scarce. It eliminates pests from below and uses vertical airspace instead of garden bed. And when the tomatoes begin to ripen, firm, sun-warmed, blushing orange to red, you understand. This isn't just upside-down gardening. It's upside-down thinking. The kind that takes a problem and turns it into something that grows. Because even in small spaces, hanging from twine and old beams, tomatoes can thrive, if you're willing to believe in ideas that hang by a thread and bloom anyway. In the quiet of a courtyard or the corner of a sunlit balcony, a tower grows. Not of stone or steel, but of bottles and strawberries. Each layer reaches upward, a column of possibility built from discarded plastic and a gardener's small hope. The bottles, stacked and fitted carefully around a central rod or frame, become chambers of life. Slits cut into the sides allow the plants to spill out, their soft leaves stretching toward the morning light. From every level, green foliage tumbles and blossoms burst open, small white stars against the translucent walls. Then comes the fruit, red, heart-shaped, glowing like little lanterns in the green. This is a tower of intention. It doesn't sprawl across the ground. It climbs, offering abundance where there's little room to spare. Even a single square foot of patio becomes a harvest zone when built upward like this, and the care is just as gentle. Water trickles down from the top, filtering through each level, reaching roots evenly. The bottles hold warmth, protect from wind, and let light pass through. To build one, you need no fancy tools, just bottles, scissors, and patience. But what it grows is far more than berries. It grows smiles, the quiet kind that appear when someone finds a strawberry nestled in leaves, warm from the sun, ready to eat. There's something joyful in harvesting from my level, reaching out and finding sweetness in the vertical. It's not just gardening, it's storytelling. A tale of how even the most ordinary materials, when treated with care, can rise into something fruitful and full of grace. Where most people see a wall as an end, some see it as a beginning. Along the length of a wooden fence or the side of a weathered brick house, a garden takes shape, not on the ground, but in the air. Cradled in rows of clear plastic bottles turn into soft-shouldered gutters of green. Each bottle is split lengthwise, the edges smooth and curved inward, screwed gently into wooden slats or mounted on wire frames. They form a gentle rhythm, like a song for the eyes. Inside, herbs grow thick and fragrant. Basil reaches upward, leaves broad and glowing. Mint trails sideways, brushing against its neighbors. Dill whispers skyward, feathery and light. This system is more than space-saving, it's soul-saving. It turns a flat wall into a vertical symphony of scent and purpose. You water from the top row, and the extra drips down, feeding the next level and the next. Each tear soaks in the morning sun, the bottles warming slightly, cradling the soil like old hands holding seeds of hope. Building this isn't complex. Cut, mount, fill, and plant, but the joy it offers is constant. A morning walk past a wall becomes a ritual. Plucking oregano for your eggs, brushing thyme with your fingers just to catch its scent. It's not just gardening, it's returning to slowness, to softness, to noticing. You realize how little space herbs need. Just a bottle, just a bit of light, just your care. And in return, they give flavor, beauty, and the quiet pride of having made something grow from almost nothing. In a quiet pool at the edge of the garden, something gently bobs, a raft not made for people but for plants. Fashioned from tied plastic bottles and the lightest of trays, this floating garden drifts with purpose. It carries tender greens across still water, untouched by soil, guided by balance and a gardener's belief in trying something different. Each raft begins simply. Bottles lash together, a tray resting above. The bottles float with ease, their buoyancy offering a stable stage for leafy things to grow. Above, the plants stretch toward the sun. Below, roots nestling in moist earth just inches from the cool water line. There is no pump, no wires, just plastic patience and water's quiet support. Here, spinach unfurls broad green pages. Lettuce softens in the breeze. And when the wind moves across the pond, the whole garden shifts slightly, like a lullaby in motion. You find yourself drawn to it, not just for its novelty, but for the calm it creates. A system that adapts, that reclaims space, that finds use of forgotten and gives it purpose on the water. This idea works anywhere a small body of water exists, a kiddie pool, an old tub, a plastic basin filled with rain. And for those in dry or clay-packed regions, it provides a gentle solution. No digging, no soil mess, just floating focus. Children find wonder in it. Bees and butterflies pause to rest. And you, the maker of this raft, realize that gardens don't always need ground. Sometimes they only need lift, light, and a little imagination, because what floats can flourish, too. In a garden that welcomes both sunlight and stillness, a greenhouse rises, not from glass or industrial frames, but from bottles. Clear, ordinary bottles, once bound for bin, now joined side by side to catch the sun in cradle warmth. Stacked in vertical rows, they form translucent panels that shimmer faintly when touched by morning light. This bottle greenhouse doesn't claim perfection. Some bottles are scuffed, others slightly clouded with time. But together, they create something beautiful, a structure that holds heat, shelters seedlings, and glows with gentle intention, threaded through wooden sticks or bamboo poles. The bottles are bound into walls and roof, leaving just enough space for air to move and light to filter. Inside, the temperature is kinder, the breeze softer. Tomato seedlings stretch upward with calm determination. Basil thickens near the floor. Along the edges, recycled pots hold quiet life. They're green just a shade brighter under the filtered light. You step inside in the early morning, brushing away condensation from the bottle walls, listening to the hush only growing things know. Building this doesn't take money. It takes rhythm, patience, the quiet click of bottles being cut, cleaned, stacked. Each one a chapter of effort, collected over weeks or months. Each one now part of something that gives. And when rain drums gently on the bottle roof, you'll sit inside and smile. This greenhouse, made entirely from waste, now shelters what's most alive in your garden. It proves again that light doesn't ask for perfection, only presence. Some gardens don't grow from the ground up. They begin on a wall. In a narrow space where light brushes softly against old wood or concrete, a new story blooms. Hung gently from twine, hooks, or string, Old bottles sway like lanterns, each holding a small life inside, a living stroke of green on a vertical canvas. These hanging bottles aren't arranged randomly. They're placed with rhythm, care, and a quiet sense of design. Some are painted, others left clear to let the light dance through water and root. Inside, herbs curl delicately, vines spill downward. Tiny flowers lift their faces towards sunlight, as if sensing they've been given a second chance. As the bottles line the wall, some low, some high, the space transforms. What was once a blank surface becomes a mosaic of color, texture, and scent. You pass by each morning, brushing your fingers along the rim of a mint plant, adjusting the tilt of a bottle if it's shifted in the wind. Building this living wall asks for very little. A drill, some string, a handful of bottles, and a willingness to imagine beauty in the ordinary. You mount one bottle, then another. Soon, your wall tells a story, not just of plants growing, but of patience hanging in midair. And when guests pause to admire it, they won't ask what you bought. They'll ask how you thought of it. You'll smile and say, I saw a wall, and I saw what it could hold. Because even in small spaces, even in tight corners, life finds a way to hang, to root, and to bloom in bottles once meant to be thrown away. As daylight fades and the garden rests, the fence begins to glow, not from electricity or wires, but from the quiet breath of candles tucked inside glass bottles, amber, clear, blue, and green. Hung from hooks or twine, these lanterns flicker gently, like fireflies that have found a home. Each bottle once held something else: juice, soda, olive oil. Now, cleaned and carefully cut or left whole with the neck removed, they cradle soft light, a tea candle inside, a small opening at the base or top, and suddenly the ordinary becomes luminous. At dusk, you walk the length of the fence with a lighter in hand, touching flame to wick. One by one, they come to life. The glow is subtle, enough to light a path, to soften the darkness, to bring warmth to the air. The bottles reflect light inward, focusing it downward in a glow that feels personal. It doesn't blind or boast. It invites. This kind of decor asks for pause, for sitting outside a little longer after the sun slips away, for noticing the way light plays on bark and bloom, for creating an evening ritual that feels like remembering something you didn't know you missed. The tools are simple: bottles, twine or hooks, candles, and time. You mount each one with care. You light them not for utility, but for beauty. And when someone asks why you hung old bottles on your fence, you smile and say, because I wanted the night to feel like home. And under their soft, steady glow, it does. In the stillness of a garden shelf or the quiet shadow of a tree, a world unfolds within a bottle. It's not loud, not fast, but it is alive, shaped by patience, cradled in glass, and lit by the passing light of day. Inside these recycled vessels, bonsai trees grow, sculpted gently into silence. Each bottle is chosen with care, clear enough to invite sunlight, wide enough to give roots a modest reach. Inside, layers are built like sediment in time: gravel for drainage, charcoal for clarity, and soil rich with promise. Then comes the tree, small, focused, humble, a sprig of green shaped by wire and hope, its limbs curled like calligraphy, its trunk telling a story of quiet resistance. Unlike gardens that bloom with noise, these bottle bonsais demand attention through stillness. You don't water them mindlessly. You visit, you observe. You notice when a leaf unfurls or when moss creeps gently around the base. The bottle itself becomes part of the experience, distorting, framing, holding light like a lantern for the living. Sometimes people stop and stare. How did you get that inside? They ask. The answer isn't about tools. It's about time, about choosing slow growth over quick reward, about seeing space not as a limit, but as a canvas for something small and whole. And when the light hits just right, when the tree's shadow curves along the glass like ink on parchment, you remember, even within something once discarded, beauty can take root. In the bottle, the bonsai isn't trapped. It's protected. It's framed. It's held in a moment that invites you to slow down and simply watch it breathe. There's something ancient in the way moss gathers. It doesn't rush. It clings softly to stone, to bark, to quiet spaces, growing not by force, but by presence. And when nestled gently inside a bottle, It transforms the ordinary into a living fragment of forest, captured in glass and light. These bottle terrariums aren't grand. They're palm-sized sanctuaries, built from what's available: an old water bottle, a bit of gravel, a scoop of dark soil, a handful of moss pulled from the garden wall, and perhaps, just perhaps, a fern unfurling like a green breath held in time. To build one is to slow down. You cut the bottle carefully. You rinse it clean. Then you layer stones first for drainage, charcoal to purify, earth damp and rich, and then the green. You press it in with your fingertips, soft and deliberate, as if tucking in a child. Finally, a light mist of water, and the world inside begins. Each terrarium becomes its own mood. One might be dense and shadowy, like a forest floor. Another, bright and minimal, just moss and a single stone. There's no wrong way to shape them, only your way. Placed on windowsills hung from string or arranged in garden corners, they catch light and moisture like memory. And over time, they teach you something quiet, that even in the smallest of spaces, life endures. It breathes slowly. It reflects softly. It needs only your attention, not your perfection. In a bottle, moss does not just grow. It waits. It listens. And in its stillness, it invites you to do the same. In the quiet of a garden that breathes between rainfalls, a gentle rhythm begins. Drip, drip, drip. Water, slow and steady, lands on stone, moss, or soil, offered not in torrents, but in kindness. The source? A plastic bottle, reused, reimagined, refined into a fountain of care. These watering fountains don't hum or buzz. They don't rely on wires or apps. They begin with something you already have: a bottle, a pin, a bit of patience. A small hole in the cap becomes a doorway for water to fall through. Suspend the bottle over a pot, a garden bed, a thirsty patch of soil, and you've built a system that thinks in time, not urgency. In dry seasons, they become lifelines. A slow drip at dawn keeps the roots cool as the sun rises. By noon, the soil is damp but not drowned. By evening, your plants have grown a little taller, and you spent no more than a few minutes a day before to make it possible. Each bottle can be adjusted. Twist the cap tighter for slower drops. Loosen for a light stream. You can tuck them among the herbs or hang them near blooms. In shaded corners, they glisten like forgotten springs. Some gardeners even fill them with diluted compost tea, turning them into feeders as well as fountains. And the best part? It's not just the plants that benefit. It's you, the gardener, rediscovering how little it takes to nourish something. A repurposed bottle, a simple hole, a belief that care doesn't have to be loud to be felt. This is watering in its most poetic form. Not a task, but quiet promise. A bottle held upside down, and a world turned gently right side up. There's a quiet pride in watching something climb, slowly, surely, toward the light. In one corner of a humble garden bed, a trellis rises not from lattice or wire, but from plastic bottles, once discarded, now transformed into steps for green ambition. The structure is simple yet thoughtful. A central pole, bamboo, wood, or even rebar anchors the design. Around it, bottles are cut, stacked, and threaded in intervals. Each one becomes a resting place, a turning point, a perch for a reaching tendril. The bottles don't just support the beans, they shape the way they grow, guiding the vines into spirals of strength. At first, the shoots explore, brushing the air, tapping gently against the bottles. Then the bond forms. Curl by curl, the plant climbs, gripping edges, wrapping around curves, pulling itself higher with quiet determination. Within weeks, the pole disappears beneath a cloak of green. Leaves layer like tiles. Flowers emerge like tiny invitations. The bottles catch light, turning the trellis into something alive, shimmering slightly in morning dew, casting shifting shadows as the sun arcs above. At dusk, it glows faintly, the day's warmth still caught in plastic skin. This project isn't just about reuse. It's about rhythm. The rhythm of slicing bottles, of building layer by layer, of watching plants trust the path you've made. It saves space. It reuses what once held nothing but waste. And most importantly, it becomes part of the story of growth, A reminder that even the simplest structures can lift life towards something brighter. Because in the garden, every climb begins with one touch, one curl, one bottle. In a sunlit stretch along the fence, something quietly brilliant happens. Bottles, clear, ordinary, once forgotten, are now cradles of water and green, linked in a rhythm that flows from one end to the other. This is a hydroponic rail system, crafted not from high-tech parts, but from the hands of someone willing to see possibility in plastic. Each bottle becomes a chamber, cut and cleaned, fitted with a neck cup, and aligned side by side along a wooden or metal rail. Inside, water enriched with simple nutrients flows, a slow, steady cycle powered by a tiny pump or even gravity itself. No soil, no guesswork, just roots suspended in light and motion, growing with graceful simplicity. Lettuce curls wide and soft. Mint grows sharp and fragrant. Basil thickens like it knows it's thriving. You don't dig, you don't weed. You check the water levels, watch for air bubbles, and smile as green reaches upward through clear walls. It's a system built for those with small spaces and curious minds. A single rail against a fence. A length of bottles on a balcony wall. It teaches you that food doesn't need to start in dirt. That growth can happen in water, in rhythm, in flow. The materials are humble. Bottles, tubing, cups. But the result is modern and mindful. A closed loop of care that recycles not just plastic, but purpose. And when you harvest your first salad, roots still suspended in clear light, it feels different, cleaner, closer, like you built something that doesn't just feed, but understands. When the rain comes, it whispers across roofs and fences, sliding down unnoticed, unless someone's listening. In this garden, nothing is lost. Bottles, once emptied, once discarded, now hang or sit with open mouths, catching the sky's generosity and sharing it slowly with the soil below. This is a rain catcher and drip system born of intention, not invention. Suspended under eaves, nestled beside stems, or strung beneath gutters, each bottle becomes a vessel of timing. Some are cut wide to collect water from a roof edge. Others are inverted and pierced to release water drop by drop, keeping roots quenched long after clouds have passed. The rhythm is patient. When a storm rolls through, the bottles fill with purpose. Later, beneath a steady sun, they return the favor, feeding tomatoes, softening dry beds, keeping herbs supple and strong. It's not flash, it's function, and it's beautiful because it works quietly. In places where rain is rare or irregular, this system becomes a partner. It spreads what nature gives. It stores, slows, and delivers. You don't need pumps. You don't need meters. Just bottles, some wire or string, and the willingness to think in cycles rather than minutes. There's poetry in the way water moves, from sky to roof to bottle to earth. And when you see the slow drip of a bottle nourishing a plant you love, you understand. This is gardening in rhythm with the rain, not in spite of it. It's a small act of listening, of catching, of giving back slowly. In the center of a joyful garden, a totem rises, neither ancient nor sacred, but undeniably alive. It's built not of stone or sacred wood, but of bottles, plastic, glass, painted, repurposed, one atop another. They reach upward like a story told in color. Each bottle brings its own history. A soda bottle turned turquoise blossom, a wine bottle catching gold light. Together, they are more than stacked objects. They're a sculpture, a burst of color, a vertical garden of memory and imagination, threaded onto a rod or mounted on wood. The structure stands with cheerful boldness, a tribute to play and resourcefulness. Children point at it, tugging at sleeves. Neighbors slow their steps. The way the light dances through tinted plastic and weathered glass makes the totem shift with the hours. In the morning, it sparkles cool and clear. At dusk, it glows with a warmth that echoes the sky. You build it slowly, bottle by bottle. Maybe you paint some. Maybe you keep the labels. You don't worry about perfection. This is garden art in its purest form. Not meant to impress, but to express. Some shapes flare like flowers. Others spiral like wind. All are balanced, not symmetrical. Around the base, plants begin to gather, daisies, lavender, thyme. Over time, Vines creep up, claiming the lowest bottles. The structure doesn't resist. It embraces the wild. And as the seasons shift, the bottles fade slightly, clouding with age. But still they shine. Still they stand. A reminder that beauty isn't only in what's planted, but in what's placed, in what's made by hand, in what's saved and made to stand tall again. Sometimes, the most overlooked parts of a garden become its greatest assets. A fence, once bare and forgotten, transforms into a stage for life, and its stars, bottles cut angle and mounted, each cradling a patch of green, like tiny garden pockets stitched along the wall. These bottle fence planters lean gently forward, welcoming sun and rain. Their open tops hold just enough soil, and their tilted angle ensures drainage, letting herbs and blooms flourish without fear of rot. Each one is a little cradle of potential. Mint spilling playfully over the edge, thyme blooming in tiny bursts, nasturtium tumbling downward in bright orange flare. There's rhythm in how they're placed, each planter following the line of the fence, creating not just function but a kind of living pattern. A fence that once said stop, now whispers look closer. It draws the eye and invites the hand. You run your fingers along the leaves in passing, pulling a sprig of basil or brushing against soft marjoram. Creating them is surprisingly simple. Cut the bottles with care. Drill a few holes. Mount them with wires, screws, or twine. The only real skill required is noticing that the fence could be more than a boundary. It could be a garden in itself. And as the seasons pass, the bottles cloud a bit, the labels peel. But the plants grow fuller, the scent stronger. Your fence becomes not just a structure, but a story, told one bottle, one bloom, at a time. Because sometimes the edge of a space is just the beginning of something beautiful. Not all gardens are grown in straight lines or square beds. Some bloom in midair, suspended like stories just beginning. In a quiet corner where branches meet sky, bottles once forgotten are shaped into spirals, twisted gently with heat and patience, then hung to catch the wind and cradle something green. Each bottle holds more than soil. It holds intention, twisted just enough to open space, to let light and air pass through, to cradle a handful of roots. The plants inside, trailing ivy, flowering herbs, even soft succulents, settle into the curve, adapting to form as if nature knew the shape all along. When the breeze comes, the planters turn slowly, catching glimmers of sun. Their movement is not dizzying, but soft like music without sound. The bottles glisten, some clear, others brush with soft color, and their shadows dance across the wall or grass beneath. Creating them is an art, but not a mystery. Heat a clean plastic bottle, just enough to soften. Twist gently, let it curl like a ribbon, like smoke frozen in time. Cut a space for planting, add drainage holes, and tie it up with twine or wire. Hang them from branches, beams, even balcony rails. It's a garden that doesn't ask for ground. It asks only for a little sky, a little breath, a little belief that beauty doesn't need to be rooted to be real. And when someone steps into this floating grove, they won't just see bottles, they'll see possibility, spinning slowly, growing quietly, proving that even trash can take flight. In the hush of late afternoon, the garden wall seems to breathe. Bottles once meant for landfills now bloom with life. Each one a vessel holding soil, root, and green descent. From top to bottom, the plants tumble like waterfalls of light and scent, cascading softly over the fence like poetry written in vines. This wall of bottles isn't loud. It's layered. Each recycled container, cut and mounted just so, becomes part of a whole, an orchestra of green playing in slow, rustling chords. The trailing plants, creeping herbs, sweet potato vines, small petunias, lean into gravity, responding with lush embrace. Their roots cling gently to the soil cradled in old plastic, and their stems drape in arcs that catch the wind. There's no need for symmetry. The wall invites wildness. As the plants grow, they shift the design, filling gaps, blurring lines, weaving the man-made into something wholly natural. Birds pause here, bees wander close, and neighbors ask how it was made. You tell them, one bottle at a time, mounted with care, angled with intention. The key lies in placement. Each bottle tilted slightly to invite the plants to spill. The water drips down from above, shared among rows. You don't build it all in a day. You let it evolve. And in return, the wall becomes more than vertical garden. It becomes presence, a living, breathing thing that marks your space not with boundary, but with abundance. It proves that the most beautiful walls are the ones that let life overflow. At the center of the garden, where vegetables grow and herbs scent the air, a sculpture rises, a rainbow tree not formed by nature, but by human hands in recycled color. Its trunk is wood or rebar, strong and steady. Its branches extend upward and outward, not with leaves, but with bottles, painted, curled, layered in bright succession. Red reaches to the morning. Orange greets midday. Blue and violet catch the dusk. And all together, they shimmer with something more than light. They shimmer with intention. Each bottle has been chosen, cleaned, trimmed. Some are twisted into petals. Others flared into sunbursts. Together, they form something joyful, a sculpture that doesn't just decorate, but declares, this space is loved. Children call it the rainbow tree. Neighbors ask where you bought it. You smile and shake your head. I made it, you say. And they look again, not at plastic, but at transformation, at color made from trash, at celebration grown from care. It doesn't take much to build, just bottles, wire, paint, and time. But it gives much more, a focal point for laughter, for light, a way to show that beauty need not cost, and art need not come from galleries. In wind, the bottles clink like glass wind chimes. In rain, they glisten. In silence, they stand. This tree doesn't fruit. It doesn't bloom. It simply shines. A standing invitation to play, to reuse, to imagine. And in the evening, when your garden settles and the light grows soft, the rainbow tree glows quietly. Proof that creativity grows wherever is watered. Not all gardens grow loud with color and height. Some whisper, some invite silence. And in the corner of this quiet space, a Zen bottle garden rests. Succulents nestled in soft sand, balanced by stone and shaped by breath more than effort. Here, bottles become cradles of calm, cut open like long, narrow bowls, their edges softened by hand or heat. Painted in tones of stone, slate, ivory, taupe, they disappear gently into their surroundings. Inside each one, a single succulent grows. Tight rosettes of aloe, thick pads of jade, the starburst of a zebra cactus. There's no clutter, no crowding, just one plant, one vessel, one space to hold it. Around them, fine gravel is raked in circles or waves. Pebbles rest deliberately. Driftwood is placed not decoratively, but intuitively, like punctuation in a poem. This is not just decoration. It is arrangement, meditation, the act of placing something and allowing it to remain. You don't build this kind of garden quickly. You build it slowly, quietly. You listen to where each object belongs. The bottles, once chaotic and mass-produced, now become part of a rhythm, offering stillness in a space that holds motion all day. And when the world outside feels heavy, you sit beside this bottle's end garden and breathe. The succulents need little, just light, a little water, and your awareness. They remind you that growth can happen even in arid places. That care can be minimal but meaningful. This is not just upcycling. It's peace, recycled, softened, and given form, suspended in air like captured wishes. The flower's chandeliers sway gently with the wind, made not from crystal or brass, but from cut plastic bottles shaped into cradles of bloom. They catch the light with unexpected grace, turning waste into wonder above your favorite garden corner. Each bottle, once ordinary, is sliced and sculpted until it softens. Curled edges like petals, a hollowed center to hold something new. Inside, fresh flowers are placed daily or weekly. Marigolds, zinnias, sprigs of thyme, or lavender. The cradle holds them just right, keeping the stem steady, the blossoms forward. They do not wilt immediately here. Somehow the air and light preserve them a little longer, as if honoring their temporary beauty. The cradles hang from a ring, wood, wire, or repurposed embroidery hoops, suspended by invisible lines from pergolas, porch ceilings, or tree limbs. When the wind catches them, they dance, not wildly, but with a slow rhythm, as though remembering a music you can't quite hear. You don't need a florist to make these. You don't need electricity or fine tools, just bottles, scissors, flowers, and a bit of time set aside for the kind of making that feels more like tending to joy than completing a task. They light up small gatherings. They mark quiet moments. And in the evening, as the sun dips low and casts orange across their edges, these chandeliers seem to glow, not with light, but with love, with intention, with the kind of beauty that arrives only when you pause long enough to craft it from nothing. Because sometimes the most delicate lights are made by hand and held by a flower